Hey everyone, John Michael here. Michelle, who you may know from previous episodes such as H2OMG Plays D&D, where we played Dungeons & Dragons as water characters for 4 episodes. Well, we recently took a trip through time and space to Fort Worth's own Log Cabin Village. It's a living history museum devoted to the preservation of the Texas pioneer era of the 1840s through the 1890s. It's right over there by the Fort Worth Zoo, and if you've never been, you really should check it out. Also, I feel like I say this all the time, but there's something wrong with my throat. That's why I sound terrible. Anyway, this is a 2-part episode, and in this first part we talk with Shae Adams, the Assistant Historic Site Supervisor. We chat about what life in general was like for people living in that era and how they interacted with water on a daily basis. We discuss the importance of easily available, clean water to entire settlements of pioneers. We also talk a little about Harry Potter thanks to Michelle's son Johnny, who came along with us and is a huge Potterhead. The clicking noise you can hear in the background the whole time is Johnny playing with his galleon, which I'm told is a kind of currency in the Harry Potter universe. I'm more of a Hobbit head, so I wouldn't know. I asked him about the exchange rate from galleon to US dollars and he wasn't sure, although he was shocked and dismayed when I estimated how many galleons I owe to the federal government for my college education. Now, let's get to the episode.
My name is Michelle Birmingham, and I work for the Water Park Department. I'm a conservation specialist. And we are at the Log Cabin Village here in Fort Worth. And today we are talking to...
Hey, I'm Shae Adams. I'm the Assistant Historic Site Supervisor here at the Village.
What does a historic site supervisor do?
So I do a little bit of everything. My main job is all of our educational programming, so making sure that we have awesome stuff for people to do when they come out here. They see a lot of great stuff. I'm also the person who supports our historical interpreters. So those are the people that you'll see when you come out to the village. They're in 19th century historic attire, and they're ready to talk to you about candle making and weaving and milling and blacksmithing, and we're basically consider ourselves Frontier 101, and so I support them to make sure that they have what they need to be awesome.
I think a historical interpreter brought us to your office.
Absolutely, okay. Yeah, yes. If they were in 19th century clothing,
yep.
They're an interpreter.
Yeah, I want to talk about what brought us here. Do you want to tell Michelle? Because you were the inspiration.
Yeah. So, my son is here. Can you say your name?
Hi, my name is Johnny.
And recently we actually went down to the Lyndon B. Johnson State Park, and we toured their historical. They have also, I think, a 19th century multiple, period. What do they call it? Historical living or something like that.
Got the wrong person.
Yeah, I don't know.
Living history?
I think so. Living history
excellent.
farm. Yes, yeah. And we loved it, right, Johnny?
Yes.
And so we were there and we were fascinated, and I started asking questions about water. What did they do with water? How did they have, faucets, piping, all this stuff? And so it just kind of got my brain thinking about water and usage, and we were trying to think about what was local that might have some of that information too. So yeah, so that's, we're curious about everything that's here, but I think our driving is kind of what people did for water back in the 19th century.
I didn't mean to grab this from you earlier.
Oh, I don't You were just holding it out and then we grab it as needed.
But you're the one that suggested we come here.
Yes.
Because I don't think I even knew, I don't live in Fort Worth and I'm not from here, so I didn't know that it existed. And so you said there was a place really close. It only took us like a 5-minute drive from City Hall. And I'm interested in history, and we want to talk about how water is used in history. And so you suggested we come here, and that's how we ended up here. We are.
We're so glad. This is so exciting for us. We're so glad that you're here today.
Thank you again for having us.
So I think we've kind of discussed it, but so what specific time period does the Log Cabin Village portray?
All right, so we mainly focus on the 1840s to the 1890s. So just that middle 19th century is our wheelhouse. We usually focus more around the 1850s to 1880s, but that's our wheelhouse.
Are there any kind of like historical markers for that time period or certain events? Or I'm just trying to get, or is that just the period of time that this type of like architecture was
Yes,
the
so
primary? Like what's the cutoff, like why is it in 1949?
Right. Why don't we go up
Or
to the
1849 or
1950s when these
something.
cabins were moved here? Absolutely. So all of these cabins were built between 1840 and 1890.
Okay.
And so
So those are your...
Yeah, and that's really why we exist. Because originally you had this group of people in the 1950s who were looking around going, oh, log cabins were such a big part of Texas history and of our ancestors, and they're going away. They were just getting demolished. As we move forward with new types of architecture, you don't really need a log cabin if you have something that's much more insulated. And so they made it their mission to save different types of cabins. And so as you go around, you'll also see that the cabins each represent a different style of architecture, because not every log cabin looks the same. And hopefully as you go out on the site, you'll see, oh, this one has 2 stories, this one only has 1, and just see the differences in architecture as well.
Interesting. Is it, were all of them in use up to the 1950s? Were they kind of like on people's properties and abandoned? Is it a hodgepodge?
A hodgepodge, yes.
Okay.
Like I know the school is one of the newest buildings that we have, and the school was on the north side of Fort Worth, and it was actually being used as a church for a long time until I believe the congregation got a new building, and so we got the school.
Oh, neat.
But some of them were just kind of rotting away, and so this is like history preservation at its finest, just rescuing buildings from different places and moving them into Fort Worth.
And all these, you said they were all located somewhere else and then moved here to the log cabin village. But were they like local, pretty locally located?
So we have a couple from Parker County, so that were about what would have been 10 miles south of where Weatherford is today. But we also have one from down on the Brazos River in what is now Ghost Town in Port Sullivan. We have one, let me see, sorry, I have my notes here, from the like Richland Hills and Hearst area. So they come from a little bit of everywhere, but closer than you would think. So we don't have anything from like far west Texas or way up in the Panhandle.
So is this a city department? Is this funded by a historical society? Like who's supporting to keep this information out, still relevant and out to the public?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we are part of the Park and Recreation Department of the city. So we are in the recreation division. So it's us and your community centers. And so we are supported by the city. All of our historical interpreters, they're not here they are voluntarily here. We're not forcing them to be here. But they are City of Fort Worth employees. And so, the city really saw that this was important and made us part of the recreation division, which we're really thankful for. It's awesome to be a city employee.
Yeah. Well, now they're in trouble, because now that I know as a other fellow city employee that I have a direct pathway to these interpreters, I'm like finding your email and about to annoy you constantly. This is fantastic news for me.
Yeah, bring it on.
They're like, why is this lady in the water department keep sending us random questions? Anyways, okay.
That's what we're here for. You'd be amazed at the kind of questions we get. So.
All right.
So when the pioneers were traveling in their covered wagons and looking for places to settle and build their log cabins, how important was easy access to water when they were considering a place to settle down?
Oh, extremely important. Because as you're looking for a place to settle, water is one of those things we have to have as human beings. And also these pioneers are bringing livestock with them in a lot of cases. And so your livestock also need a steady amount of water. So one of the things that pioneers would look for as they're trying to find a good place to settle is moving water. Because you don't want to stay around stagnant water, because besides disease, you can't drink that. And our ancestors knew that. They weren't, these cave people that are so far removed from us. They made decisions very much like we would make today. And so you were really lucky if you could find a spring, because that's going to be really clear water. It's going to be clean. And so you could build a spring house around it, and so you have a pretty steady and close supply of water. And if that's not available, then if you could at least dig a well. And so we would see a lot of our ancestors digging down wells, so they'd have it a little closer than wherever the nearest river might be.
What about transport of water? Do we know, like, if they're traveling in a wagon, would they put it in a, totally having no clue, like put it in a leather satchel? Would they, a barrel?
Barrels.
Barrels?
Yeah.
Okay.
Barrel of water would have been one of those things you definitely want to have on the trail. And I'm sure after a while that water is going to get kind of gross, because it's going to taste stale, right?
No, like, if there's no residual chlorine in there. So
That's one of the questions about were there number 5.
Oh yeah. So do we know? I mean, was it just purely spring fed? Do we know? Did they do any kind of additives or any kind of processes to it? Are we aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. I have seen some accounts that if they had found water, so if they'd been at a river or a lake, they might boil the water.
Okay.
But beyond that, they're not really putting
anything. I mean, I don't even know where the science was. Was there science back then? Sorry. No, there was.
It's amazing. Our ancestors had science. A little different than ours.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, just where water purification and chemical addition was at that point, and whether that was something that the everyday person knew about or something along those lines. So, okay. Barrels. Interesting.
Barrels. And when you would come across a stream, if your barrels are starting to run low, you want to fill those up, because you don't know when the next time is that you're going to find water. And so you would see people who would die of dehydration out on the trails because they just didn't either plan well enough or something catastrophic happened and they didn't have that water. This one I'm not sure. I'm sure on the trail there were methods of them catching water because they would have their water barrels. But certainly when our ancestors settled, they would have rain barrels next to their homes, especially if you had a sloped roof. You can catch all of that rainwater. And so they were very ingenious in ways of collecting water, too.
Interesting.
You don't want to mention our rainwater harvesting?
Oh, yeah.
We're all about that.
Yeah. So
This is hard
just
without my microphone.
no.
I'm not trying to.
Oh, no. Go ahead. Just a plug. We do here at the City of Fort Worth, the Water Department, we do have a rain barrel sales. So if you want to keep the tradition alive, always check back to our social media. We do them periodically. We're trying to plan one for the future, but we don't quite have dates yet. So, but if you keep checking our social media, when we get that settled, we'll post something about it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. I didn't know that the city did that. I'm learning all kinds of things being a new city employee. I'm like, we have what here? That's great.
Rain barrels.
That's good.
We help subsidize them. And so, good stuff.
Well, how long have you been with the city?
It'll be 6 months tomorrow.
Oh, you're off probation.
I know. I'm so excited.
You're about to be a real girl.
I know. It's like, I'm a real person now. This is so exciting.
So what'd you do before? Was it also in historical? What?
I worked at a museum out in Thurber, Texas. And so it was industrial history, so a little bit different speed, but in a little bit later time period. But yeah, so still a historian, just a much different atmosphere.
So does that mean you have a degree in history, or how did you get into this area?
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, I loved history. My mom was a Texas history teacher, so that's what exactly. That's what I grew up on. Those were my bedtime stories. So I went off to college. I knew I wanted to do something with history, but couldn't imagine myself being a teacher because I admire them, but I can't do it.
I feel you. I'm a suppressed teacher as well, but introvert in me just can't do it, can't handle it.
Oh, absolutely. So I went to Sam Houston State, got a major in history, and then I went to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County for a graduate degree in historical studies with an emphasis in public history. So all of that history involving people, and here I am. So
Neat.
I just want to say I do a shout out to my wife in every episode, so here it is. You mentioned Texas history, and I'm not from Texas, and when I moved here and she was talking to me about it, she was like, didn't you guys have a Tennessee history class? And I said, no. But you guys had a whole Texas history class.
Yeah.
It just seems strange. That's all I'm saying.
But like 2 years of it too, 4th and 7th grade.
Back to the business mission.
I know. My mom was from Kansas, and so she thought it was strange too, and yet here she was.
How do you indoctrinate people if you don't teach them your ways, John Michael? Duh.
What are you going to teach them about Tennessee? Raccoon skin hats and Davy Crockett. That's all. There you go.
That's your hometown that you're, crapping all over.
And see,
but that's on
because
you.
we had these Texas history classes, we would never talk about Texas
yeah,
like that.
we know. We rep hard.
We know.
Yes.
Where did they go to the bathroom?
Where did they go to the bathroom? Ah, that's such an excellent question. These are my favorite things in history. The kind of gross things that people are like, oh, we don't talk about that. So there were several options. Usually once our ancestors got settled, they would build an outhouse. So you want to be very careful with where you put your outhouse, because you don't want all of that waste getting into your water supply, because that's going to make it really hard to have clean water, right? You don't want any of that. So they have an outhouse a bit away from the house, but if it's the middle of the night and it's cold on a day like it is today, do you think that you'd want to go outside to use the bathroom at midnight in the dark?
No.
Yeah, no, right? That's going to be scary. You don't know what's out there. It's cold. It's dark. There's no street lights. And so you have this handy dandy thing. Oh my gosh. Sorry, all I can think is like the name like Thunder Mug for it. Do you actually hate it when you know the word?
It'll come to you.
Like a chamber pot?
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, a chamber pot. Sorry. It's just
I like Thunder Mug.
right? I know. Yeah, when I was at a living history site in Tennessee. Yeah. They pulled it up and was like, "Oh, this is a Thunder Mug." I'm like, "That's beautiful." But yes, they would have what we call a chamber pot. And it goes right under your bed, and then you pull it out. It's this little pot, and then you do your business. I know you look so disgusted right now. Yeah. And then you just put it back under your bed. If you're lucky, it has a lid, which is nice, so the smell doesn't get out, right? Because that would be real gross. Well, then what do you think you're going to do with that the next morning? Are you just going to leave it under your bed?
No, probably go to somewhere and dump it out.
Exactly.
And then get some fresh water.
Yeah. Okay.
Before you get the fresh water, you probably have to clean it.
Right. And that would probably be a pretty gross job, right? And it actually probably wouldn't have any water in it. It would just be an empty pot. So you're just going to kind of dump it out and off you go. And if you were the youngest kid, that's probably going to be your job. Yeah. Because it's like, hey, we need something. The kids need to help out with chores around the house, right? And so you can't really cook because they don't want like a 4-year-old next to the fire, right? But you know what you can do? You can pick up this pot and go take it outside and dump it out.
So how would you feel, Johnny, if I made that your job, your house job, to empty the chamber pots?
I'd rather just go outside and just dump it out.
You're going to dump it out. So you're going to go underneath my bed, your bed, Jack's bed. And you're going to collect all of our chamber pots and take them all outside and dump them for us. That's really generous of you.
I'll probably just get something to cover my nose so I wouldn't smell it.
That's a good call.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I'm sure you were not. I'm sure that Pioneer kids did the exact same thing. Whew, that was a rough night for everybody.
Can I do a really random plug? So this conversation reminds me of the chamber pot scene, Game of Thrones. Do we remember that? No? Okay. Also, random fact, Kit Harington is related to the guy who made toilets, made toilets. So. Full circle. Yes.
Oh.
You're completely going to cut this out, but I just wanted to make that connection.
Connections abound.
Yeah. You don't remember when Sam was in the Citadel and they gave him the crappy job, literally, and he had to empty all the chamber pots of all the maesters? Yeah.
Yeah. See, our ancestors did
bunch of nerds here. Harry Potter and Game of Thrones. Yeah, bud, you want to talk?
Yes. The chambers, you can like get like something to cover your nose, or like get some wood and make like a little cover,
Oh yeah.
and then get something or like a little rope and put it behind and put the rope behind it and tie it onto that little thing.
I don't know about tying it to yourself, because then you might splash on yourself, and that'd be a whole new level of gross. But yeah, some of the chamber pots did have little like wooden covers on them, and so that it wouldn't splash. Oh, to cover your nose. Yeah, you probably would have used some kind of handkerchief, I'm sure. And you hope that maybe, your mom's grown some nice herbs out in the garden. You can stuff your handkerchief full.
I have a question. So we're talking about chamber pots. Is that what Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets is about? Chamber pots?
No.
Okay, thank you. That's a movie, right? That's one of the ones. Okay, good.
Yeah, we need a good clarification on that. I'm glad. Oh, that would have been a whole different book. I mean, they do get there going through the toilet. Yeah. Like through kind of. They had to move the toilet. Yeah, they have to go through the bathroom pipes. So you open this door. You got some Harry Potter nerds here who are like, well, actually.
I was just trying to make a cheap joke. I didn't really want to talk about Harry Potter, guys. I'm surrounded. What was general hygiene like at the time, like bathing and washing? Like, how often did they do that? Did they care about that? Were they more worried about more important things?
They definitely did care about that. Just like we would like to not smell like a gourd patch. Our ancestors didn't really care for the smell either. And just like we know that, hey, if you're clean, you're going to get rid of diseases and stuff. Our ancestors knew those same things. Now, they didn't wash quite as frequently as we do, because we usually do like a daily bath, right? A daily, every other day. Accounts vary, because again, like what you guys do at your house is not the same as what I do at my house, and that was the same with our ancestors. However, most accounts you're going to do about a weekly bath, and that's being very clean at the time. But you're not going to, every person isn't going to get their own bath water, because again, water, yeah, here you go. This one's for you, Johnny. So,
Listen.
All right. So if you're taking a bath, water is hard to get to, right? So if you are near a spring, that's awesome. But you don't have running water, so you can't just turn on a faucet and the water comes into your house. So you're going to have to go and collect buckets of water, either from a local river, from your well. You're going to have to find the water. You're going to fill a tub or a basin in your house full of it. And is that water going to be hot or cold?
Maybe like make a little bit, probably.
It's probably going to be pretty cold, right? Especially on like a day like today, you're going to have some really cold water.
If it's summer, it'll probably be hot.
Right. In summer, it's going to be a little bit warmer, but you're going to fill up your basin, and then you're going to have to heat it if you want it to be warm. So you're going to heat it next to your fire, so that's going to take a while. And so you can't do that for every person in your family. That's just a waste of water. It's a waste of effort when you have other things to do. And so you're going to share the bath water. Usually, parents get to go first, and then we work our way down to the youngest. And so if you've ever heard the phrase, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, that's where it comes from, because the baby's is going to be the last one in, not the cleanest water, but not the dirtiest either. It's like, you'll be fine. And so they're going to reuse that water. And even then, they're not just going to throw that water out as waste. You can water plants with that. You can do a little bit of cleaning with it. So our ancestors were great at recycling water and finding uses.
So can you imagine, Johnny, that if we filled up your bathtub with water and then Daddy took a bath first, same water, then I took a bath first, and then you took a bath in that water, and then Jack took a bath in the water? That's how they used to do it. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the water would get a little bit dirty and a little bit clean at the same time. Yeah. Pretty sure once most of the people get done with it, I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty dirty.
Yeah. You think Jack would keep, like now Jack loves to drink bath water and spit it out. You think that would be a good idea? Yeah, no.
Because he's going to be the last one.
Yeah. I worry about Jack. I don't know if he'd make it during those times. Huh?
You got to build that immune system.
Yeah. Okay. So what was a typical day like for someone who would have lived in a settlement like this?
Long and hard. At least looking back, it seems hard, but if that's what you know, then that's what it is. So you're probably going to get up pretty early. And again, it depends on what you're doing. Just like all of our days aren't the same, neither were theirs. So especially if out in this area for agriculture, if you are farming cotton or you're farming grains, then you're going to be up early out in the fields. If you're a man, I mean, women would help in the fields, but once you're a mother, you're going to be at home. You're going to be taking care of the cooking, the cleaning, which takes a lot longer and is a lot harder. If you're a kid, then if you get to go to school, that's awesome. You're going to have to walk quite a ways to school in most cases. But if you don't, then you're going to be at home. You're going to be doing chores like fetching the water, which means you might have to go quite a distance to a river or a stream, and you're going to have to carry buckets. And if it's washing day, and so it's time to do laundry, you don't have your nice Maytag to throw it into. So you're going to have to go and get the water. You'll fill up these big tubs that you have, and then you will wash things by hand. So you're going to scrub with lye soap that you've most likely made yourself. And it's a very harsh soap, and so that's pleasant too, right? And so you're going to use a washboard, you're going to scrub, and then you're going to have other water that you've hauled up that you can rinse things in. And so it's a hard day, and that's, there's so much that we take for granted that our ancestors powered through, where it's like, well, this is what we have.
Yeah. Somebody in our ancestry did that, right? That's why we're here. Somebody lived through it. Wouldn't have been me. It would have died after, my line would have died after me.
Well, and that's what I like to think about, though, in the future when they look back on us.
They're going to think the same thing.
Oh my gosh, do you know how hard it was for them? Geez. And I can't even imagine.
They had to type things into Google. They just didn't have to think it, and it appeared.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is random, but how many sets of clothing would they have? I'm trying to think about what's the amount of laundry that would you do? And would you so this is coming, as you can see, I only do movie references. In the Witch movie, they have laundry day, and I think they're actually before this, but anyways, I noticed when they did laundry day, they were just wearing bed sheets, and it was freezing. And again, I was that movie supposedly tries to be historically accurate. So I didn't know, if you have laundry day, and that might be a really silly question. So do they have multiple sets of clothing? Did they kind of have one set clothed and have to wear a bed sheet when they were?
I don't know about the wearing the bed sheet. No, I love that.
You have to go back and watch the movie. But I think this is set in the 1600s, so it's way back when.
See, well, those people.
Yeah, they archaic heathens.
So you would have more pairs of clothes.
Okay.
I think we kind of have this idea in our heads of our ancestors having that one pair of clothes, and then you might have a Sunday dress.
Yeah.
And aren't you lucky? They had more clothes. No, really? Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And then again, it depends on your situation.
Yeah.
So the Foster family who lived in this house that we're in right now, the Fosters probably had more clothing than, say, someone who lived on a much more modest means. But you would have multiple sets of clothing.
Okay.
And hand-me-downs. And you would make a lot of what you had in most cases. But again, the Fosters were more well-off. And so they would be able to order clothing and order things and actually go out and buy things. And so it's not really a one-size-fits-all situation. But they probably had more clothes than you would think that they had.
I was just trying to think of the volume of laundry that they would do. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
So clear, if they have multiple sets of clothing, they're going to have a sizable amount of laundry. That's what I'm just trying to get at, I guess. I just didn't know if it was kind of we just do a couple. Everybody has 2 outfits and that's it, or
Well, let's wash the pants.
It's I have no pants today because it's laundry day. So no, they definitely didn't have to go around in their underwear because we're washing my one set of clothes today.
I'm just saying, for my family of 4, I swear we have on average 4 loads of laundry a week. So, and then if I had to do that by hand, I couldn't even imagine. So I was just trying to like, what is their situation like? Or
I
what
will
was
say
it like?
A good interpreter to ask this question to would be Teresa, who she's going to be in our Tompkins cabin today, where we actually have a model of a person wearing all the different layers you would have and all the
I
different
love
clothing.
that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely go see Matilda. That's what we
Yeah.
call the dummy is Matilda. So go see Teresa.
How many cabins are on the site?
So we have 8 cabins on site, but then we have more structures than that because we have our blacksmith shop, which was built specifically to be a blacksmith shop. So it is new construction. Yeah.
So I was looking on your website and I saw that we just missed the cast iron cooking class. And that's a real shame because I'm a big cast iron fan.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Are there any other events coming up at the Log Cabin
Absolutely.
Village that people should be aware of?
Yes, please come out to our Holiday at the Hearth event, which is December 7th from 1 to 4. I mean, we've been pretty good this year, so Santa's going to be here.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, we have a direct line. I just got a contract emailed to me from Santa last week. So, Santa will be here and you can take pictures with Santa. We will also have a holiday ornament that you can make and take for
cool.
your own tree. We'll have all kinds of holiday traditions going on. We get to play dreidel, which is a lot of fun. So we get to do all.
It's going to be historical. Like, is it of the time period?
Absolutely.
So like how they would have celebrated the holidays. So like our ornament's going to be like an ornament they would have made?
So our ornament will be something close to what they might have made.
Well, I don't
So,
expect it to be exact. Okay, cool.
It's like this is the most authentic ornament you will ever make. But absolutely, yeah, we have all kinds of holiday fun.
What kind of toys would Santa bring good little boys and girls back in the day?
Santa would have brought all kinds of things. And Santa would have also brought fruit. So oranges were very exciting to find.
Exotic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's like, ooh, if you get oranges, look at you. You're so fancy.
We keep that tradition in my family. We always put oranges, or Santa always brings oranges.
He wasn't listening.
Good. Santa always brings oranges to our
That's awesome.
stockings. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and if you go down to our Howard cabin, you can see the different kinds of toys that might have been made for kids.
Ooh, Johnny.
Oh, yes, you can catch a great lumberjack show in the Howard cabin. Especially on days that Mr. Steve is in the Howard. So he does a great puppet show for you. So yeah,
Neat.
Or Jacob's ladders are always fun toys as well. So you can get all kinds of things.
Neat.
And dolls, we have, as you can see in our museum store, they might have had things like topsy-turvy dolls. And so it's a doll with a dress on, but then if you flip her dress over, there's another doll on the other side.
Oh,
it's
fun.
it's a 2-in-1. It's really fun, which our historical interpreters actually make those to sell in our museum stores. So you can have a whole pioneer Christmas if you'd like.
So we've already established that nobody cares about Tennessee history, and it's basically impossible to find a book on Tennessee history. But are there any books on this time period in Texas specifically that you'd recommend?
Let me get back to you on that.
Okay.
Let me get you a list.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Yeah. Whenever you send it to me, I can put that in the introduction or in the outroduction or whatever.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
so that'd be good because I'd like to.
Oh yeah,
I just
for sure.
personally would be interested in that. Do you want to ask?
Yeah. So, as somebody who spent a lot of time, and this is actually true, in the downtown Fort Worth Library, I don't want to date myself, but playing Oregon Trail, because that was the only place I could play it, always dying of dysentery. I swear I only won that game like once or twice, which is kind of cruel, right? Like I died of dysentery. Anyways, how did you ever play that game?
Oh, I absolutely played that game.
Okay.
That is a very strong childhood memory.
Yeah.
Sitting in the computer lab,
Yeah.
but you always make it your friends, like all of your friends are on your
yeah.
wagon crew,
Yeah,
right?
you got to pick
And
their names.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you just like yell across like, "Hey, Jack, you just got bit by a snake. I'm going to leave you here." And you're like, "Dang it, don't let me die on the trail."
We're running out of food. We have to ration. Is it accurate in any way? Do you know? Do they
Oh,
Is it-
yeah.
okay. Yeah. You feel
I-
like they did a decent job?
Like, I wouldn't necessarily use it as a primary source for a research paper. But no, I love that game because I think it is a really good way to engage people with some of the trials and tribulations that you would find on the trail, because it was amazing. I was looking at some sources the other day and reading about this woman's experience on the Oregon Trail. And one of the things she's talked about is, well, there's a river up here, and so we're trying to see if we're going to ford it or if we have enough things to caulk it with to float across. I'm like, oh, never float across the river. Oregon Trail has taught me this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting because you'll find some of those same themes come up when you
Neat.
look at the sources. And yes, dysentery definitely
Bad one.
happens.
Bad one.
And cholera. Cholera was huge.
What are those? Waterborne diseases, and our water purification and our sanitary sewer now prevent those from being a major disease nowadays. Things we don't even think about, right? We can always we just pull everything into our water purification process. We just can't help it. But
We're so thankful for it because, I really personally don't want cholera or typhoid or dysentery. Like, these are all things I'd like to avoid. So thank you for all the pure water we have here.
Yeah, no thank you.
I just have one more question. So I think I sold my home state a little bit short. We do have a very famous hero, Davy Crockett, who actually fought and died at your Alamo, your precious Alamo.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say I didn't even know he was from Tennessee because all I ever hear about is him being at the Alamo.
Yeah, he's from Tennessee, and he came all the way down here to help you people at the Alamo. So he's my favorite American settler. Do you have any favorite American settlers?
Oh, favorite American set. That one's difficult. No, it really is. Okay, well, I have to say, as a Sam Houston alum, I got to give a shout out to my boy Sam Houston because he was great. Also from Tennessee.
Was he really?
He was,
okay,
yeah, he lived in
neat.
Tennessee. I believe he was one of your governors, I think.
Look at that. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah, I have a friend from Tennessee, and she and I always joke that Tennessee, you guys sent the best of your people to Texas. And so we have those close ties. It's like we're just, we're sister states.
If she's from Tennessee, I probably know her. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You all know each other, right? Grew up next door to each other.
This is random. I just realized, are the Little House on the Prairie, is this the same time period?
This is the same time period.
So
Yes.
have you read some of the Laura Ingalls books?
And this is like my secret shame that I haven't read them, but I watched the TV show
Okay.
growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it close? The show? We can just talk about the show. I love this show.
Yes and no.
Okay.
They give a very rosy view of the frontier, and a very white view of the frontier as well. I promise you it was much more multicultural than Laura Ingalls Wilder, would lead you to believe. So some of the things that they talk about, like, well, if the grasshoppers destroy our crop, we're going to starve this winter. And absolutely. Yeah, that is 100% on. Like, sorry, I also feel like this has kind of turned to like 100 ways to die in the West.
Yes.
That's fine too.
Say it. Whisper it. No, it's funny. Say it. He keeps whispering to me, when are we going to go outside? Just say it.
Please.
Podcast.
No, it'll be great. It'll be a good
funny.
transition. Yeah, because they have people to talk to outside.
Yeah, these things are silly.
Because we're done asking questions.
Yeah.
Do you want to go outside?
Say
I want to go outside.
That's good enough. Okay, we're going outside. Thank you very much, Shae, for talking
Thank
to us and answering our
you.
questions. And let's go outside. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks to Shae for letting us come out to the log cabin village and chat. In the next episode, Shae shows us around the village and we talk to several interpreters about the importance of water to the people of the pioneer era. So make sure and tune in for that. Also, Shae got back to me with some great book recommendations on this time period. She recommends Buffalo Bill's America, William Cody and the Wild West Show by Lewis S. Warren, The Comanche Empire by Pekka Hamalainen. I'm guessing that's how you say it. I don't know. He's from Finland. If anyone is interested in learning more about log cabins, Shae recommends The Log Cabin, Homes of the North American Wilderness by Alex W. Beeler and John O. Ellis. Fort Worth's Log Cabin Village, A History and Guide by Terry G. Jordan. Texas Log Buildings by Terry G. Jordan. I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking Terry G. Jordan might be somewhat of an expert on log cabins. The Log Cabin in Texas History by James Randolph Ward. And if anyone is looking for kids' books in this time period, Shae recommends the American Girl Kirsten series. She said they were a big part of what first sparked her interest in this period of history. You can help us spread the word about H2OMG in several ways. There are so many ways, in fact, that it's almost like you don't even have an excuse, especially if you're related to me. You can subscribe to the podcast. You can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can tell your great pioneer great grandparents about the podcast. But first you'll have to explain phones to them and, I guess, electricity. Not to mention what's a pod, what's a cast, and what's a 5-star review. So if you're willing to take the time to do that, that would be great. Speaking of time travel, I want to give a special thanks to my dog, Andy Frise. I've known Andy since the 9th grade, and I was a bridesmaid at his wedding, meaning that I was a groomsman, but on his wife's side of the stage. He listens to every episode and sends me a critique. I want to add him to a special group of H2OMG fans I'm calling the H2OMigos. If you want to be an H2OMigo along with Andy and my wife, all you have to do is leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, let me be in your wedding, and somehow find my personal phone number and text me episode critiques. Thanks for listening, and thanks to both of our H2OMigos. Tune in next time for part 2 of Log Cabin Village People. I asked about the exchange rate from galleons. Did you guys hear that? I think that this office is haunted because that sounded like a little music box, and I wondered where it was coming from, and I took my headphones off while it was playing, and I couldn't hear anything, so it wasn't happening in the real world. And I don't even believe in ghosts, but